Welcome, Vlad, to Metalarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Necrowretch, this new album, Swords of the Jal, and obviously more things related to the metal world. So we're starting by asking, so how was the band been during the last 4 years? Because your previous album, The Ones from Hell, was releasing at the beginning of the pandemic, and now we have this new album.
Hi, and thanks for the invitation. Of course, it was the worst time ever to release an album before the COVID. The same thing for every band, and we were just about to go on tour, and like 6 days before, everything was cancelled. So it was a pretty fucked up situation. I know some people that will definitely split their band after such a pain, but we find the energy to continue. And directly after, we started to work on the new material because we knew the Ones from Hell was kinda lost. I mean, for the promotion. So we started to work on new albums, and it took a lot of time, almost 4 years between the COVID and the release of this album. So it's a really, really long road for this one, but we are proud of what we did.
Mm, Thank you very much. And also, as you mentioned, well, the ones from hell didn't receive a good promotion because the pandemic happened, 2 years no tours, a lot of things happened. You know that. So for this aspect, how will you focus the next presentation of Necrowretch? All tours, gigs, etc. You promote both albums or just promote this new one?
No, we will just promote these new ones. First, because we changed the lineup um, after the pandemic. So the new lineup, and especially the new drummer, were in the studio to record the Swords of Dajjal. And it's always way better to play with a lineup that recorded the album. It's way more easier for everyone. Also, I think the album is outstanding compared to our previous material. So therefore, we really prefer to focus on this one. There will be some old songs as well from the Ones from End and from our previous albums, but mostly the show is focused about Swords of Deja.
Okay, nice. Nice to know. Well, you mentioned it, other things about the evolution of the band, because for me, this new Swords of the Jal was very different from the first four albums that you released with Necrowretch. I remember when I hear the band since the first album, Putrid Dead Sorcery. At that time, you play a more old school death metal, but then you decide to deal now little by little to the melodic death metal, or melodic black metal with influence of Swedish. So, is this change was a conscious decision, or perhaps is this change was a future of the evolution of the band, a product?
I think it's an evolution of the band because the first album, Putrid Death Sorcery, I mean, I wrote this album when I was like 20, 21 years old. So of course it was full of influence from Death, Morbid Angel, and so on. And later, as every musician, I start also to listen other kinds of music and other kinds of metal, and getting very influenced by bands from Sweden and also bands from South America. I think about Mortem, Anal Vomit, Hades, and the first Sepultura. And we really enjoyed this bestiality and this violence, this raw black metal, if we want, and we added into our music. And I think at the time, we did some album where we prove we can play fast, or we prove we can play very evil. And this time we say, okay, we will do a more personal music, and we want really the people to can identify this album as a Necrowretch album and not as a band who sounds like this or that.
Okay. Well, I remember to ask you in the previous interview that we had, and the ones from hell. I remember that you told me that you like to travel around the world and you capture the essence of each country, and that's why the one from hell has Asian color art, I remember, with the dragon from China, this kind of stuff. But now, when I hear this Swords of the Gel, I saw this cover art reflect, I think, one of your last travel. So, one of your last travel. So, how can you explain about the lyrics of these Swords of Dajjal? Because Dajjal, I think, is an weapon warrior from the Arabic, this kind of well, this area on
Mhm.
Europe.
Yes, I think the last travel I did was in Turkey, and this one was very long because I was supposed to stay there only for a couple of months, and I stay 1.5 year. So it's no secret to no one that I'm deep connected into the Eastern world, and I'm also very curious about their lifestyle and about their music as well, metal music or non-metal music, and therefore I start to be like into this mood almost every day. So I started to study more history and more books about the devil in this part of the world, because everywhere in the world someone have his own devil. I mean, you have the chupacabra in Mexico. Some people will say Blackfoot in the US. We have La Bête du Gévaudan in France. Everyone have his own tale if we want. So it's up to you to make your own interpretation. There is a lot of horror movies about some classic demons. There is also some movies about some evil genes or spirit from the desert. And I think it was interesting to create an album about it. The first song we wrote was actually the song called Swords of Dajjal. And when we had this song, I felt this can be the stone, the arcane stone, if you want, of the full album. And then we will make the other song around it. We have something good about it.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Interesting to know. Well, usually you told me that you like to travel. So when I saw the cover art, I remember your words that you told me. I like to travel and interpretate my travels on the lyrics of the albums from Necrowretch. That's interesting point. Also, I saw into this new album, Swords of Dajjal, that very common uncommon words like Kesars of Al Kafurt, the Maori, by Victis, Daeba. These names are very easy to remember because it's not common names. So
Yes.
who came with the idea to put these names to these songs, and what exactly
I
means?
mean, yeah, every song have its own interpretation. If we start with the opening song, Sar El Kawfar, it will mean in Arabic the palace of the infidels, or if you prefer, the fort, the castle of the unbelievers. It's like the people who believe at that time, but they don't believe anymore. And so in the story we created, it's like a place that you cannot find in any map or any road, and you can reach this place only through your dreams. And so you start to dream about a place, and then you can be imprisoned in this place. It turns into a nightmare, but in this nightmare you realize that in this place um, the mankind were corrupt by an ancient fruit from the tree rooted in hell, and then they live in sin and lust with no control from God. So that's it. It was a good topic, and when I brought this idea, we say, okay, this is definitely black metal. We have enough to make one song. It can be a good theme for, I don't know, a Black Mirror episode. So if someone from Netflix hears this interview, you can contact us.
Yes.
No worries. And every song have this kind of connection. I talk about movies because also we are very much influenced by cinema as well as music. We can talk about the movies, for example, Dune, or some ancient horror movie from the 80s, or the movies from David Cronenberg, and all this creepy, gory, and surrealist stuff. is also a lot of inspiration for us in our vision of the music and the art around it.
Hmm. That's interesting because the cover art, when I saw the cover art, I remember movies from the 80s or some movies from the 70s. That's why, that's when the colors, the art is for. I said perhaps this is something like the covers from like the 80s, and I was right. You told me that this
Yeah.
is a representation. So, well, talking about now the music, as I mentioned, you are in the beginning played death metal. Then you decide to mix. I remember the first mix to play black metal was in Satanic Slavery when you mix black metal with death metal. Then in the ones from Hell, you're more black metal, and now you are into a new field like is the melodic black metal because I hear a lot of stuff from but not the common bands like Dissection or this kind of us, other way of the melodic black metal from Swedish. So in these aspects, so for it, that's my interpretation of the album because I'm the interviewer and reviewer. But since your point of view, which are the main difference that you find in this album compared to the previous ones?
I think in the previous one we were very much influenced about the bands that we listen in our teenage time. I would say again, Death, Morbid Angel, Dismember, and Battery, and so on. And mostly we were satisfied when the songs were sounding like the bands we loved. But after the ones from Hell, and I think the music become more personal. And now we are satisfied if we can say this song sounds like a Necrowretch song. We receive a lot of comments to people talking about Necrophobic, Vatain, and some other black metal bands. I think it can be yes and no because in these bands are very melodic and there is a lot of repetition and the riff turning forever and very long and epic solos, sometimes almost like Iron Maiden. Where in Necrowretch, we always keep the thing kinda short, and I will say the base for the songwriting stay in death metal. We still think our song kinda like Sepultura was doing back in the days. You have a good riff, then 4 times you move to finish something on, you change the rhythm, then you are headbanging, then go back to the first riff, and that's on. And therefore, the songs are not very long. We prefer to keep it short and to keep it effective. While in black metal, sometimes the songs are too long, in my opinion, and it can lose the power. So I will say that's the difference in the new album. We make more personal stuff, but we are still true to ourselves, if I can say this. The music, I will not say the music completely changed. I say the music grew up and get more complex and more interesting in the end. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Yeah, well, you mentioned a few minutes ago about your influence to do this new album, especially hearing about bands like Haters or Hades, Sarcophago. I don't remember, and also I remember that in the previous interview that you mentioned me, a lot of bands from Latin America, especially from Peru, Brazil. That's one thing that's one thing that I mentioned. And also when I hear this Swords of Dayal, I remember. I hear in this new album that your voice is not like the previous one. Your voice has this savage sound, especially from this part of the world, some South American especially. So, and related to this, so what do you find in Latin bands that the bands in Europe doesn't have for you?
Uh, Chaos and um, direct aggressivity. I think that's why what is amazing when you listen to a good band from South America, like for example Mortem, it's like at the beginning of the song you have this riff and this kind of scream, yeah, starting like this, and you say, oh, this is already so metal. This is so great. It's like starting like a Slayer song, you know. It's like to the point and it's very effective. Where in Europe people are making more nowadays more complex musics, more post this or post black metal, and try to make it more, I don't know, intelligent, I will say, maybe. Sometimes it's good to listen to very binary music and to have, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's working. It's very effective. It's like what we really enjoy in South American metal. And regarding the vocals, the difference is during the pandemic time, as we had plenty of time to prepare the album, I took some vocal lessons for the first time in my life, and I realized that I didn't knew anything about my voice before. It was good, it was sounding good, but I didn't know what I was doing exactly. And thanks to this time, I learned a lot of new technique. I learned how to master my voice way better, and we spent a really long time in the studio to make the vocal warm up, to make the vocal sounds perfect at the first time. And so this made also a big difference between this album and the previous one. I guess in this album we can clearly understand the lyrics. Even if you don't have the lyrics in front of you, you can still catch some words. So we spend a lot of time on the articulation and the impact of the lyrics.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's right. Your voice evoke this kind of savage things when you have this kind of stuff. Love it. Love that. Love
Yes.
that. So now talking about the promotion from this Sword of Dajjal. So what kind of promotion do you prepare for this new album? Will you embark in tours in Europe, perhaps tours in US, or who knows, a tour in Latin America? Because your previous tour was canceled here. I remember that you will play here, but something happened at that time. I don't know.
Hmm. A bit of everything, actually. First, for the promotion, we also already released 2 video clip, but we are working on more videos and also to present the universe around the band. And then we are aiming at the moment, we will play mostly in France. We are working on some dates in Europe for the end of the year. And now regarding about talking about USA or Latin America, of course we are willing to do it, but we need to find the good promoters, and we need to find the condition and the time to come, because many time we had the opportunity to come, and when we arrive to the time, tricky question about the flight tickets and about some arrangements, then there is no one. Understand? And I know it's hard. It costs a lot of money to bring bands, especially we are still, I mean, kinda underground. It's like we will not come to Mexico and make some stadiums. So it's like, I understand the promoters also take a risk to bring Necrowretch or this kind of group to play overseas, but we are willing to do it. So hopefully this time something can happen, because I know we have also a lot of supporters in Mexico, in Peru, and also in Latin America in general. And I would like to say gracias to all these people. I wish we will come this time to slit your throat.
Okay. Okay. Well, I understood what you're saying about the flight tickets. It sometimes happen here, this question, these things on Latin America. But now talking about other kind of aspect, and we are very close to ending this interview, Vlad. And one thing that usually now, as you can see, well, I remember when I grew up since the 80s to now. And I remember at that time that the metal was something complicated to understand for people. Always the metal fight against something. Religion, society, politics, this kind of aspect since the beginning. Since the beginning to the 90s. But then the trends, the social media appears on the world. And with these trends, nobody is against something. Now the metal is well more accepted. You can use a shirt on the street with a visceral stuff on the shirt, and nobody tells you anything, because a lot of people using a visceral shirt now, or visceral t-shirt. But and as you remember, perhaps you remember in the 80s and 90s when you use a Cannibal Corpse t-shirts, a dismembered t-shirt, the people shock up on the street. That's very different. Now we're all people joking about black metal, how to paint a corpse paint in YouTube, how do you do that, etc., 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 etc. So there's now the metal's very different. So Do you think the metal lose the essence to fight against something? And right now, because now we're always more joking, more without we really told, you know.
Mhm. Yes, I think there is no more danger in this music. Some bands are still carrying it. I think about Vaten, for example. But also, all the bands in black and death metal are not created with the intention to be dangerous, savage, or terrifying, you know. And mostly in France, I will say, we also always have a very artistic point of view of everything, and mostly we will present our music like it's an art, it's a piece of art, it's our vision of this tale. For example, you will go to see a horror movie to be frightened, to have the shivers, and so you will listen metal music to have the same thing. I mean, this is our point of view. I cannot talk on behalf of everyone. I think pretty much everything was done already. So unless you make a new band and I don't know, you kill all your lineup and you make one demo and it's cult, I don't think so. People will be really surprised about something in the future. So mostly right now, I guess the time is about the online service, the streaming, the people who are present, who can present some good videos and have can show their universe, and people will mostly follow new metal bands for their imagery compared to the music. You can have the best album, you can produce the Black Album tomorrow. If you don't have 5 videos clip, no one will know about it. Unfortunately, it's like this. And in extreme metal, it's even more hard to perceive because the people don't do the music to make money. They make the music for passion, with their guts. Mostly people don't really live with the royalties. I mean, only the huge bands are doing this. So it's even more hard for us to think like, okay, guys, I did a super death metal albums, but no one cares really because we are already 5,000 to do this year, and everything sounds already like Morbid Angels. So um, bands have to be more creative. If they want to bring danger, then they need to find a new way to make it, maybe online. And if they want, like us, to present an artistic vision about Dajjal, for example, on this album, but maybe on next album it will be something different, then we need to be creative on the artwork, on the video, and about your lyrics. So it's up to everyone. Also remember that many bands don't have plans at all. You know, they just do shows on the weekend, drink some beers, and they don't really think about what they will do. It's a lot of bands are actually like this. So as long you enjoy the music, it's good. I wish one day the metal will not become popular, uh, like everyone will listen it, because it will be very sad. It's better to it stay in underground. It stay to for metalheads. When you're a metalhead, you are a metalhead for life. So that's it. I will say we are pretty much in this time right now.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. So, and one thing that you said is about now a lot of bands and a lot of people are releasing the material well, are releasing material because as you can see, weekly by the end of the week or by the weekends, we can see 20, 30, 40, 50 releases, albums, EPs, singles. It's amazing. It's
Yes.
very difficult now
Yeah.
to catch up all these kind of things. But with this aspect, I remember when the metal appears in the 70s, 80s, and when you hear a song at that time, and when you hear the song, this song automatically become a hit. You can hear it, a lot of things. Iron Maiden is like that. So for that, we have the bigger bands, the mainstream bands, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Saxon, Metallica, etc., 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 and more bands that are living for this kind of aspect. Now, with the digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, you can see there is the music is so personalized now. The people just
Yeah.
hear just one focus on technical death metal, other people just hear melodic death metal, other people thrash, and etc. 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 There's a niche in each style. It's not when you put perhaps you put a song from Necrowretch, it's just for 300 people and just in one niche. So no more people hear Necrowretch. So with this aspect, how do you see the future of metal when the bigger bands disappear of the world? And because now the music is so personalized and there's no bigger bands to carry the torch.
I think it will be sad when the big bands will disappear, but also it will be interesting to see where the metal will go. I mean, after Iron Maiden and Judas Priest disappear, one day they will split forever. It will be really the final tour, you know. So who will be the headliner at this time? It will be something like Slipknot or Lamb of God, Sabaton, or bands like this. Okay, I mean they did some great stuff, but it's not like Iron Maiden, let's be honest, and it will never be. But for their supporter, it will be like this, and so the cycle will turn on. Now, regarding extreme metal, unfortunately, most of the bands that were in the 80s split up, or they are doing some reunion tours, and it's very, very bad. There is a few bands like Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Autopsy, which are still very good in live and in albums. But the rest, when I see some obscure Swedish bands reformed just for a selected show, it's like really it's bullshit for me. Better stay dead, compared to make show for the money. But I mean, it's their problem. Maybe they have some bills to pay, but it's really bad. Most of the time, it's really bad, unfortunately. But in extreme metal, I think there is something with the resilience. If you are here for 10 years, then later 15 years, then later 20 years, some people will say, oh, this band is cult. Last time I saw a French musician that I saw at the demo time, and I saw him after 15 years, he's still around, and he said, Necrowretch is cult band. I say, I don't know. I have no idea. Yes, you are here since 15 years. You did 5 albums. I say, okay, so we are cult right now. Who can give this answer, you know? Some people will consider Necrowretch to be a cult band. Okay, they did one demo in 87. They never had a career. Some people will say Sadistic Intent is cult. I consider it's a cult band. They never did any album. I mean, come on, guys. So it's up to everyone. But in extreme metal, we know that time brings some kind of respect to the band. Doesn't matter if the demo from 87 is maybe shitty, but they were here in 87, so that's it. You know what I mean? And this is kind of hard for a new generation band, especially for us. We are from France, so it's like even harder to say we have some good music, but we were not here in 1991. So we will always be like a B division. But maybe, who knows, 10 years or 20 years later, some people will say, yeah, but these guys, they released an album in 2013. And so they are from a cult status. So it's really interesting how it works. We will see how it moves. I just wish one thing, that young people will continue to listen to this music, because sometimes I go at live show and I see everyone is like 40 years old, and I want to see some young people, but mostly this new generation is into deathcore or metalcore and not so much into extreme metal. But it will change. There is some cycles, and there was a time everything was for Dimmu Borgir and this symphonic black metal. There was a time everything was for, I don't know, Slipknot or Limp Bizkit. And later, everyone was listening old school metal again. So we will see where it goes. Hopefully, we will have a new generation coming in the metal scene.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you for this answer, Vlad. Well, Vlad, the sad times arrive at this interview. I will tell this in French language. Mon français est peu relais. Merci beaucoup pour cette interview. This is correct?
Oui, c'est très bien. C'est très bien. Merci beaucoup pour l'interview. Gracias a todos. And hopefully see you in Latin America this year or the next year, or see you somewhere, or see you in hell. Thank you so much.